Kriyas truly come only out of necessity, whatever that necessity is. We don't know. This is either system freeing itself from the accumulated conditioning, from all these samskaras, and it can free itself in many, many different ways. Someone will release emotionally, less physically, less somatically, because that's their portal. They will, for example, cry or laugh or experience grief or anger. So in other words, emotions will be that portal of release.
So my question is about samavesha and kriyas. Since Mexico retreat, and particularly since Chloe's labor, my process really began. I have been meditating joyfully and properly every day. Sometimes I can't, but almost every day. And I'm very committed to my sadhana. I do it from my heart. It's not nothing. I'm not forcing anything. And I'm very happy. And I had the Kundalini course. I finally was ready to understand, because previously I wasn't. And I understood that lots of things, like my internalization process, which I didn't understand why I couldn't be with other people. I just wanted to stay at home and watch everything happen inside of me. And thank God I had the course, because I wasn't understanding anything. I was respecting it, but not understanding it. So thank you for the amazing course. It's priceless. I think that my meditations have been successful, very successful. Because for me, Igor knows that it wasn't easy for me to meditate. I wasn't able to meditate, and now I can. It takes me a bit long at home to enter the state of meditation, but I can do it almost every time. And I begin feeling propensity to have kriyas. But they don't happen. I only feel the propensity. And I thought, okay, perhaps it's going to happen now in this retreat. And in the first sitting, I felt that propensity very strong, but nothing happened again. So I thought, like at home, I thought, okay, perhaps it's meant for me to begin the movement, and then I began the movement, and the propensity suddenly vanished. My question is specifically, what is your advice when I have that propensity to have kriyas? What should I do? Should I wait until they really happen, or should I do something? Because you said today before the meditation to make the movement and ask, okay, what do you want me to do now? But the moment I do the movement, the propensity vanishes. So that is my question. And just a quick question regarding the explanation of samavesha. Can we consider that the kriyas are the shambhavopaya mean, like the penetration? Is that it? Because you explained that there we have the mean number 4, which is anavopaya, that So we have to do our part until we reach the state of Shakti, and then after that point, there is that penetration of the goddess. Can we consider that the Kriyas are that, or I'm missing the point?
Okay, let's look into this. Maybe first to clarify with regard to this, so it doesn't become too academic, kind of like tied to what we have sketched earlier. So, what are kriyas in our language, right? How you hear me often when I speak about this in the interviews, or when I speak about it to the audience, where I know that people may come from different walks of life and not all of them know our work. I make that distinction that the word kriya used in our work is only with regard to involuntary movements, involuntary kriyas. So in other words, to distinguish it clearly from any other methodologies out there where the term kriya is used, is a kind of like, I keep repeating myself, but it's necessary because many people may hear that and immediately come up with conclusions that we're doing the kriyas, right? So this work comprises of doing the kriyas, which is totally the opposite. It's not the kriya yoga, it's not the kundalini yoga, it's not sudarshan kriya yoga, all these known registered trademarks out there, and I don't know who else is there in a kind of a smaller enterprises that may use the term kriya in relation to doing something, a set of exercises, set of mudras, set of physical exercises. Here, it's simple as that. Autonomic nervous system takes over. And I give analogy for it to become really clearly understood. Autonomic nervous system rules both sympathetic and parasympathetic parts of the nervous system and all that is under that orchestration. So we don't do anything to swallow, we don't do anything to blink, we don't do anything to digest food, we don't do anything to breathe. All this is covered by the autonomic nervous system. All these activities are functioning by themselves on their own. So that's what distinguishes our work. And if we are to put it into the category, it belongs to the category where it is more in line with those traditions where that grace descending power orchestrates this work one way or another. We already amongst ourselves in the team speak about perhaps necessity to replace the word kriya so as to customize it, so that we no longer need to go over these kind of lengthy explanations. So when we speak about that, that's what we mean. So we don't do kriyas, very clear. So that what you speak of as propensity, I want to understand, because English is not your first language, neither it is mine. So we might be here having that potato kind of conversation, you know? So when you say there is a propensity, do you mean that there is an impulse that the kriya is about to come? Am I correct to understand?
Yes, what I feel is like my hands are still, but I feel that they are moving. They are. That's the best way I can explain it.
Hang on a second. You feel they are moving, and they are remaining still, or you feel like they would like to move?
They would like to move.
Okay,
yes.
So I wanted to make sure. So, and then when you follow that impulse, it fizzles away. Why? You see, autonomic nervous system doesn't require mind to work, right? I ate my meal, and the whole digestive process begins to work itself out, the prana as particular type of prana, samana vayu, now is busy at work. You see? Yeah, of course, we can tweak that, right? Like, you know, whatever the constitutional setup, you know, some bit of ginger, lemon, you know, churna, whatever spices we add, right, to make digest. The black pepper used to be called in Europe back in the days black gold, because aristocracy could not have it. You know, everyone walk around, flatulence was a matter of fact, you know. So bring me that black pepper by hook or by crook. I pay gold, you know. Doesn't matter how many vassals you have in your castle, sitting there after a meal, and all you're doing is is not very nice, you know. So of course, these digestive processes are not happening because I ate my meal, now I'm going to digest my food. It doesn't happen that way. See? So, autonomic nervous system takes care of that. So in meditation, there is this point is where your mind is not yet, as it were, fell on the background. So the autonomic nervous system did not take over. It's maybe on the pericarp, maybe it's like right on that border where you feel the propensity. You see? Just as there is always border that in many rooms there is this transitory room like in a big mansion. They could afford it back in the days. It wasn't all Le Corbusier style. Box room, next box room. No. You could have like a beautiful passage from one room to another through a lovely, lovely, conservatory. You see, that's how I would like it, our spiritual center to be. You know, you move from one room to another through a conservatory where you are submerged in the elements while still glass is there. Did you place the intentions for that? I hope you did. So, you don't just fall asleep like that, right? Unless you're under the hypnosis, but even then, so in meditation, exactly like that. Exactly like that. There's this transitory moment. So maybe this also invites for everyone that reminder, that simple reminder, rule of the thumb reminder. So you don't need to ask the mind, or you don't need to have the mind to give the license. Okay, now I'll give myself to Kriyas. Because Kriyas are not the goal, they are byproduct. Okay? We can talk about Kriyas more in depth if we want to, if we need to. Please bring it out. Anyone. And what's more important is that Kriyas truly come only out of necessity, whatever that necessity is. We don't know. This is either system freeing itself from the accumulated conditioning, from all these samskaras, and it can free itself in many, many different ways. Someone will release emotionally, less physically, less somatically, because that's their portal. They will, for example, cry or laugh or experience grief or anger. So in other words, emotions will be that portal of release. For someone else, the body here becomes that portal of release. And the body is very active, how it will then display. There's a whole vocabulary of what it can do. But all that, one way or another, belongs to the unloading of the system. Nothing more, nothing less. Freeing the system from the accumulated conditioning. I don't want to call it pin it like stresses or traumas, because it all goes into. The true expansion of pranic flow through the body, let alone full Kundalini awakening, is accompanied by freeing of the system not just of stresses, anything that acts as a conditioning. You see? We can speak about term stress in more of an all-encompassing sense. We can. There are discourses in the past, some of you may remember, when we spoke about stresses in terms of its ultimate view. And I gave example of how Adi Shankara, for example, viewed this. He considered human birth, stress in consciousness. You see? So the human itself is where consciousness is impeded and compacted and contracted in such a way, so it's already stress. You see? So it's like, it's a very, very Vedantic perspective. So it serves its purpose. But back to our work, we know that these are the kind of kriyas that are the language of the unloading. And then you've heard us speaking many times of the language of the goddess, where it has out of this world like appearance, particularly through melodious, harmonious vocalizations, through orchestrated as if by a top of its league choreographer dance-like movements, mudras, precise positioning, asanas, the whole, that vocabulary, it's no longer just unloading. It's no longer just shaking off all that dust. It's something else. And therefore we cannot just paint it all with the same brush or speak of it in the same way, because we will do tremendous injustice to the process. But one way or another, it has to be involuntarily, fully, truly. Sometimes, though, for those who, for example, are given to the work, and if it feels like you are too still, like you're too kind of like monolithic, you feel that there is this, as if, well, as if it's not moving you or something. There can be a simple test as a suggestion. Just loosen up a little bit. You know, I had people in the earlier years, in particular in places like in California and British Columbia, we had a lot of people in the earlier years who had very, very solid kind of yogic background. You know, that they studied yoga, they yoga teachers, therapists. You know, so they come with all this understanding. They're like immediately in full lotus, and like, you know, they just genuinely or out to impress, doesn't matter. It's just that, you know, just like full lotus, you know, like all this kind of like photogenic, photographic, like just cover of the Yoga International. Just, you know, perfect, you know, just lean as anything, you know, like. And of course, like I was younger and I was less kind of like laid back. I was like a bit more, I would come and mess them up, you know, in meditation. I would come and mess them up. I'll take a cushion, right, and just like mess up their asana, you know, like if they sit like that, I'll come and I'll undo their hands and like, and just like, sort of like, you know, so it's just like, and they're startled, you know, sometimes startled and annoyed, upset, at other times just totally catch the drift and going into bliss, you know. You know, it's just like they understand how ridiculous all that was, like, you know, like the kind of, you know, this kind of, so it's not about that, right? So in those cases, it's like just, you know, go, you know, like, remember when we were young, not you and I'm saying like, because you're much younger than me, you know, going to be 16 2 years, you know. I could be granddad if my eldest was a bit more proactive in that area. But I do remember when, like out there, dancing, and you are kind of like in your teens, and, and like a group of girls standing there and a group of boys, and, it's just like sort of, and it's like others dancing already, all like kind of dancing. That I remember it. There's so, and you invite someone to dance, and I can't dance. It's like you need a partner, you need your guy, friend. Let's go together. Let's go. Come on, we need to, kind of be a little bit more active here. Otherwise, I can't dance. The only way to know whether you can dance or not, you move, right? Move anyhow, and then it starts moving, right? And then in no time, it's like John Travolta comes out of you, right? Like Saturday Night Fever, like sort of like in all the right moves, Of course, if someone has that in their bones, then it's just, the bone marrow just can't sit still. The same here. So sometimes if someone is just sit too much like this rock solid, the invitation could be just like, loosen up a little, The reverse of that, someone who is completely all over the place, right? As we have spoken earlier. Yeah. It's like, sharpen your act together, man. It's like, you're like all over the place. This is not a, like, what are they? Seals, the school of seals somewhere. Kamchatka, Norway, I don't know. Just, so don't question that, okay? You did just now, but don't question whether, so just go with the flow, and you don't need mind to kind of like, okay, I'm going to do kriyas now. In fact, reverse of that is simply just let go and relax completely, okay? So that also the propensity for whatever that may be, for it to be shaken out, if there is any accumulation of certain feelings, emotions that, wants to express itself, or if it's touched deeper, something that comes from a very long time ago, something that has been bottled in, something that never had the chance to be given that outlet. This is what the sadhana provides. So we don't leave stone unturned, or we don't leave any pockets to come and revisit that due to bypassing. See? We will touch upon that also further, the inconsistency of the methodology applied today by a lot of non-dual teachers who claim to teach direct path. And then this inconsistency is severe. So at the face value, it seems like it's a piece of cake, right? But the propensity of spiritual bypassing is enormous, in fact. Enormous. So this somatic approach, it's much more sound, you see? Much more sound, because there is much less propensity to go back and revisit all that when it will be much more difficult to do. You see? Much more difficult to do. And you know who speaks about that? People who went through full process already work as therapists, teachers, and when they are mature enough, when they don't care about status quo, and they speak about it, how difficult it is to integrate when you think you're done. See? Because then it's only cementing everything again, crystallizing it. So it's better to remain as fluid as one can. You see? So this, going back to now more specifically, if that propensity is there, all you can do is just like, well, let the body move as it will. When it's ready, I'm here for it. I'm fully open. I'm fully relaxed. So that you don't need to keep your mind kind of alert there somewhere. That, would that be, how would that be? It doesn't matter. It's kind of like at some point also, you had enough tequilas now to just, let your hair down and just dance, Have you ever danced like that? Yeah. When you were younger?
Yes.
It is like that with the dance as well. See? Letting your hair down, not caring how it will look on the outside. Because if we have that portion of our awareness, how does it look? Then we keep the tap, we keep the lid on. So then there's no unloading for that. So there has to be this innocence before the teenager kicks in. It's like, how do I look? Do I look cool? Do I look cool? And the more you think how you look, the less cool you are, So this has to be this like really throwing into it, you see? And those of you who know that already know that, right? When you no longer feel that inhibition, there's it's a greatly liberating feeling. Greatly liberating. You see? So, and I hope this is clear also, right? The operating power, so that don't worry about how this, how do we superimpose this? Obviously, if there is involuntary process, it means there is pranic activity, heightened pranic activity at work, obviously. When Kundalini awakens, it's several notches up. It's completely a game of its own, different ball game of its own. So, but one way or another, of course, prana at work means Shakti at work. All pranas in the body, all 5 principal pranas, under the supervision and governance of the life force, always. Doesn't matter if Kundalini seems to be in a state of slumber, homeostasis, or fully awakened. It's always, all the pranas are subordinate to that. So, if there is that movement, you see, so obviously Shakti is at work here, one way or another.